Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. Today, I'm going to be going over the changes that I've made to my studio in the past couple of weeks since that mammoth unboxing I did a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, quite a few things that I've installed. There's still a couple of little things that I'm thinking of adjusting with it, and a lot of cable management to go on. I'm still waiting for a hub to arrive that will I'll fit in. So at the moment, there may be a few cables running around on the floor and so on. Just noticing that my chat comments aren't coming into Ecamm at the moment, which is a little bit strange. But I can see David in the YouTube chat. Parker, Tanju, hello. Great to see you here as well. And obviously, Peter and Jeff in the Discord as well. So hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm going to be talking through what I've done in the studio. Oh, there we go. Comments all just popped in. Great to see you here, everybody. And obviously the stream element spot as well. Fantastic. Just check my comments are all coming in the right place. There we go. Seem like a little bit out of sorts today, but there we go. We shall get on with it. So what have I been doing? Well, I've been rearranging my studio, as I mentioned before. So I did that unboxing, basically moving my lighting over to Nanlite from the generic softboxes that I was using before. I've also upgraded the camera, so gone with Sony ZV-E10 and ZV-1 for my top-down shot. Talk through all this in a little bit more detail. And I've sort of not quite retired my 10-year-old Canon. So I've mentioned before that, yeah, all of the videos that have come out on my YouTube channel up until this point have been done with a 10 or maybe even 12-year-old camera at this point. So you don't really need all the latest gear to make content on YouTube. But finally, I've got around to making these upgrades that have been a long time coming. And I don't think it's going to make any difference to my actual content because it's really the information that people come for. But I have been getting a lot of questions about setting up studio spaces and all of that sort of stuff. So it's only wise for me to be up to date with all of the latest stuff in any case. So let me just show you basically what I'm sort of set up like at the moment. And then I'll go through all of these things in a little bit more detail. I've got my sort of mobile setup on and my little wireless mic as well. So I'll be able to sort of walk around and talk you through some of these things as well. The main thing that has been added is the these two lights. So I've got this Nunlight Forza 60 is the actual light fitting, and then this is a 90 centimeter softbox or dome here, and then it's got the sort of little crate on it. The point of that, by the way, if I just switch over to this camera, the point of the crate is basically to help to direct the light straight out in the direction you want it to go rather than it spilling out anywhere else. So obviously I've got the lights on the back wall, which I'll talk about a little bit more as well later. But this basically just helps to direct the light. So that's the sort of point of this this crate on here. I'm noticing that immediately now I've got this all set up, even though these lights are technically larger than I was using before, combined with the sort of sensitivity of the camera, the room's now a lot darker, which I actually like. It's a much more sort of conducive space for working for me rather than bright glaring lights. So that's one benefit of having a good quality camera and lens, that although these are Forza 60s, I'm only using a sort of fraction of the total power of them really. So it's quite, I feel like it's a nice environment having done this little upgrade. You've obviously got a lot more sort of fine control. I'll talk about the way that I've got this set up to be able to control all the lights in a moment as well. But that's one of the beauties of having all of your lights in a single ecosystem. So as I say, I went with the Nanlights, and then I can control those with the Nanlite mobile app. I actually have that running on my Mac though, so I can set up different scenes and different sort of lighting setups and everything like that as well. So this is the sort of main key light, but then I've also got the fill light, which you probably can't really see here. And it just goes to show what a good job these lights do of sort of blocking out the light from spilling out, because it's that light just up in the corner. There is light coming out of it. Maybe if I switch over to a different camera, I can show you this a little bit better. Yeah, you can't really see any sort of light emanating out to the side of it. But there we go. That's what I'm actually looking at right now. So we've got the 90 centimeter softbox here, and then we've got the 60 just up there, and that's really running at a fraction of its total power. So these Nanlite Forza 60 light fittings, they do have a fan in them, but you can also have them to run basically with the fan off, and if you have them set up like that to run with the fan off, then it basically caps the power at, I think it's 30% of its maximum, or maybe it's 50% of its maximum. I can't just remember. But then So currently, the fans are not going to run. They're never going to come on because I've put that limit onto it. But even with that limit, these Nunlite Forza 60 units, I'm still only having them sort of, this key light I think is about 10 or 15% of its of that reduced maximum. 20%, sorry. So it's basically 20% of 50 or whatever it is. So it's more like running at 10% capacity. So if you're looking at these smaller lights for a studio and thinking, are they going to be big enough? Well, certainly for my setup, these are more than adequate. I was concerned initially when I was looking at buying them, would I need to go with something a little bit larger for certainly the key light rather than the fill light, but no, they're more than adequate in terms of the light output that you get from them. So the other thing that I've done with the lighting as well is on this this back wall behind me, I've still got the same Nunlite Pavo tubes. So that is those two that are down there. That's what's giving that sort of wash on the back light, the color on the back wall there rather. And then I've just got some generic light strips that are coming out from behind those acoustic panels. So that light that's sort of emanating from behind there, that's just some generic LED strips. Probably seen them if you've looked at this sort of stuff on Amazon with this generic remote. There's so many different non-brand brands that sell these things. At some point, I'll probably upgrade those so that I can actually control them from Stream Deck. So, get, I don't know, the Elgato strip lights, or hopefully Nunlite might come out with something like that I could use it there instead. But for the time being, that's working. But one thing that I always felt, though, was those acoustic panels on either side, they always seemed a little bit dark because the light from the two Nunlite Pavo tubes here didn't really reach them. And then obviously the backlighting was coming from behind it. So it always felt a little bit dark. So one of the things that I've done is to actually get another couple of Pavo tubes and have those shining onto those two acoustic panels. So maybe what I can do is just give you a quick tour of that. Hey, Richard, great to see you here. Thank you very much for the compliment. Appreciate that. And then I've got somebody in in Amazon. Just let me zoom in my Amazon just a little bit, saying, "Do you read the chat?" Yes, Robert, I certainly do. Hi, Rob Hatch. Thank you for dropping into the live stream. Great to see you. I shall just say hi. I don't have a way to put the Amazon live chat up on the screen. So just for those watching on YouTube, I am streaming to Amazon as well. Yeah, at the moment I haven't got that set up. I forgot to do that before I started. But yeah, hi, Robert. I certainly do read the chat. So if you've got any questions about anything that I'm talking about on YouTube or in Amazon, then do feel free to shout out. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my my little wireless mic. Let's see how this sounds. If you get any audio issues, do let me know. But I'm just going to switch over to that one now. Let's see how that is sounding. Hopefully you can hear that okay, but do shout out in the chat if there's any issue with audio. But we should be good. I'm on my little wireless. I'm still really impressed with these, by the way. So this is the small rig Foravella wireless mics. I'm talking about how impressed I am. If the audio is not good, you do let me know. But these are, I like the fact that they come in a case and they've got a little charging socket on the case itself. And then I've just got a little lav mic that's plugged into it, and that's all hooked up to the Rodecaster. So I can show you that. So the little receiver is just there plugged onto the top of the Rodecaster. So hopefully you can hear me okay. This is the audio that's coming through from the lav mic on my top, plugged into the little wireless receiver there. So it seems a little bit muffled. Thanks for letting me know about that. Let me just try and crank that up just a little bit and see how that is sounding. Hopefully you can still actually hear though. It might be a little bit muffled. Is it coming through from the right place, or is it coming through from here? I think that should be okay. But anyway, I shall just show you what I've done in terms of the light on these back panels. So basically, I've got another couple of the Nunlite Pavo tubes, but these ones you can get these are crates. So it's a little egg crate for the Pavo tube. Let me just see what the chat's saying. Hey Felicia, great to see you here. And Andrew Moon, great to see you too. Just noticed your comment come in. So these are, again, another Pavo tube that I've just mounted to a bracket onto the wall. And as you can see, the crate there is basically just directing the light solely onto that that acoustic panel over there. So that's what's giving that effect of just having a bit more color over there. I've got another one on the other side, of course. So these are just basically brackets that I've screwed to the wall. The Nanlite Pavo tubes, you can see that they have little 1/4-20 threads, if I point to the right thing, on the top and bottom. So that just means that it's really easy to put a thread, a screw into the bottom there, screwing up into the bottom of the tube. So that's how that is basically held in place. I can show you a little bit about these, the Nanlite Forza 60s as well. So it's definitely muffled and a little static. Yeah, let me have a little look and try if I could see if I can fix that. Just one second. Let me tell you what I'll do. Let me see if I can just fix this right now. In fact, what I could do is I could try to do. We'll see if we can fix this and make it sound a little bit better. I could obviously do this all from the desk, but it's easier if I can show you some of these things. So I'm going to switch this other receiver on for a moment. And we'll just see how this one goes. I can actually turn this one on like this. I'll turn this other one all the way down. Okay, so that should be coming through on just this one. And we'll see if we can sort this out. On mute. There we go. I'll try and see how this one sounds on its own. So let me know how this is sounding. Earphones in and see if that is any better. Go onto here. How is that sounding? Is that any better? Let me try that. Hey, Keely, just noticed you popped in. Trying to set my audio out a little bit. Turn that one up. How about that? Is that better? It's difficult to hear it on my my monitors, but hopefully that should be a bit better. We'll see. So let me just take you back to show you the setup of these lights then, and do let me know how the audio is, if it's okay for you all. So these are the whoops, where has it gone? These are the Forza 60 fittings, if I'm showing you right. There we go. They're actually surprisingly small. I was surprised when I took them out of the box to see just how small they are. I've got those again mounted to just a wall bracket there. This thing here is actually, so this is a Nanlite Lito light, so I've got a few of these. I'll talk about those in a moment, but I've just basically mounted that onto an arm so that it is behind this light. That is what is giving that sort of little wash of light behind the main light on that curtain there. But yeah, these are just basically mounted to the wall, so I've screwed brackets into the wall there. Sorry about this. This is terrible video quality. But that's just a big bracket. Need to sort out my cable management. I've got a few, another hub coming, so I'm going to be doing a lot of cable management. I've still got cables running around on the floor down there for the moment, so I've got to sort that out. But then here we've got another Forza 60 with just the same sort of bracket, and that is mounted to the wall just there as well. I've got acoustic panels, by the way, as well as the ones that we've got on the wall over here. So there's basically the two on the back wall, but then I've got another two on the side there. This one here is actually a sliding panel. So I'll just basically put a rail in, so that slides over a window. So there's a window behind there, so I have the that basically slides across, keeps out the light, keeps out the audio, but then I can slide it back the other way to actually open up that window when I don't want it to be so so dark in here. There's another acoustic panel behind there as well. That one doesn't slide, but it sort of permanently covers another window. And then there's also one up on the ceiling directly above the desk, and then obviously the three panels around there. I did add in a couple more of the strip lights. So where I've got the light behind the acoustic panel here, I've also added that to these two as well, and then to that one on the back wall, so you can see the sort of red light coming from behind it, just to increase the light in the room. The other thing that I've upgraded is my teleprompter. So this is basically the camera and teleprompter that I've been using up until now. This is my, as I say, 10 or 12-year-old Canon EOS 60D with a Desview T3 teleprompter, and then that is the Lilliput A7 7-inch field monitor, and that is what I've been using, as I say, for up until this point. So I've now replaced the teleprompter. I've obviously, as you can see, moved that one over there. That's just a second camera angle, but what I have done is I've got a much larger teleprompter now. So this is a Lilliput A12, which is a 12.5-inch screen, as opposed to the 7-inch. So you can see the sort of relative size of them perhaps there. This one is just a much bigger screen. And then this teleprompter is, I forget the make of it now. It's called something like the... where has it gone now? All of this, by the way, is linked in the description. If you're watching on YouTube and on Amazon, obviously you'll find it all in the carousel. But this is the can't even pronounce that. ILOKNZI i7 14-inch teleprompter. So that is how that looks. Let me just come around to this side. Maybe I can show that a little bit better. So that is, where has it gone? That is the teleprompter, so it's big enough for the A12. Actually, I say that it's probably slightly too small, just a little bit too small, so the edges are sort of being cropped off. And then that is the Sony ZV-E10, and I've got the Sigma 30 mm lens on that one. So if I put it around here, maybe you can see a little bit better. The Sigma 30 and the ZV-E10. It's a bit dark, probably can't see it. But yeah, for a lot of people go with the Sigma 16 for YouTube and vlogging and so on. But I like the sort of cropped in shot. So if I come back to my my main shot for a second, then I like this sort of more cropped look rather than having a really sort of wide screen or wide shot. So the Sigma 16 would give a much sort of wider angle, but I just prefer this this sort of cropped shot. At some point, I may end up upgrading the Canon that I've got as my second angle, because now, obviously, this is still just outputting 720p over USB into the computer. So if I start scaling up, I think I'm still streaming it at the moment to YouTube at 1080, but if I was to go to 4K, then there would be a lot of upscaling going on this particular camera. So yeah, I think I'll probably at some point upgrade this to a ZV-E10. And with this, I would put the Sigma 16 on so that it gives the sort of wider angle. Parker's asking, what is my main monitor? Now, this is one that I haven't made a review of it because it's not available in the US, unfortunately. But it is a Philips P481, I think it's called. And it is a 43-inch monitor. So if I just come back to this one. What I like about this is it is a really it's a massive monitor, so it means that I've got lots of different areas on the screen that I can use. And I know some people have like dual monitors, or they'll have a vertical monitor or horizontal monitors, or those ultra wide screens. I never really like the ultra wide monitors because I find I'm just looking left and right all the time. Whereas this is basically a regular aspect ratio, so 16:9, but it just means that I've got a lot more versatility in terms of how I use it. And when I use Moom for my window management, MOOM, what that means is that sometimes I might have a vertical document down this side, I might have an Excel sheet that goes all the way across it. I do stuff with trading and stocks and so on, so I do a lot of analysis of numbers and spreadsheets. So sometimes I will have an Excel sheet that will literally run all the way across the bottom, so that I can just actually reference the entire spreadsheet rather than having to scroll back and forth. But then I've got these spaces up above that I can use for other things. So having just a single large monitor for me works pretty well because yeah, you've got the flexibility then of how you use it. And sometimes I might have something that's taking up the middle half, and then I've got a quarter down either side for different things. So I like the sort of the ability to have multiple different layouts within just a single monitor. What it means though is before, when I first set up my studio, I was having my camera, that little teleprompter on the top of the monitor, but then when I moved into this studio, I moved it over to the side, because for the first 6 or 8 months on YouTube, I was using, maybe I'll just switch back to this mic now I was sitting down, so if you're listening under the wireless one. I was using green screen all the time, so it didn't matter that the camera was at a slightly weird angle on top of the monitor. Nobody really noticed that it wasn't actually sort of at eye level. When I moved into this studio, which was now this time last year, I can't believe how quickly the time's gone. But when I moved into this studio, I moved the camera over to the side. But what that meant is that then I was having everything was over off to the right hand side. And so one thing that I did add was I added this additional monitor, which is basically one of these sort of lightweight sort of portable monitors, but I've put it into portrait mode, and that is now directly beneath the main camera and teleprompter. So what that is for then is, if I switch over to this view, when I'm doing a live stream, then this becomes where I have my chat and I've got all of my eCam controls down there. But when I'm on Zoom, then I would have my speaker view would be up on the top. And then this would then have the gallery view just down here. And so I'm sort of sitting off to one side of my monitor now. It's not sort of directly in front of me when I'm live streaming. It does also mean that my desk is now at a weird angle on the floor, which really drives me crazy. My OCD kicks in because it's not actually square into the room, because I want the camera to be square on. So when I'm sitting in front of the camera, I'm basically square onto the room. But my desk now is, as you can see, like at an angle. And that's because when I'm not actually live streaming, then I'll be sitting more over here at my desk. So then that makes that makes more sense. So yeah, it's just a weird angle going on, but I'm sure I can live with it. So that's the monitor. It's, as I say, it's the Philips. Let me just try and find it for you, because it is a really great monitor. It's actually a monitor as well. I know a lot of people use like a large screen TV as a monitor, but you get some issues with doing that. The refresh rate and things like that is built more for TV as opposed to for a monitor, whereas this has just got really good really good specs in that respect. So what is it called? Philips 438P1. I don't know how I remembered that thing there, but here we go. This is it. If I just show you on here. There we go. So yeah, 4K. It can do all sorts of things, like you've basically got 4 inputs as well, so you can actually plug in 4 different devices. It's used a lot with like security and surveillance, as well as sort of trading things as well. But if I just show you maybe some of these, so it does come with these legs. I actually mounted mine on a rolling stand, so I wasn't really going to trust me and have this just sitting on top of my desk with these legs. I thought for sure I'll sort of knock it off, but there you go. You can see the inputs. So you've got 2 HDMIs and 2 display ports, and the D-sub as well. So you can have those where you've got like picture-in-picture with one input, or you can have 4 different things on the screen at one time. So yeah, it's pretty decent monitor. Yeah. It's a bit like the what's it called, the dual up. So there's a is it LG dual up, which is basically like 2 monitors on top of each other. Well, this is effectively like 2 dual ups joined together. So yeah, it's pretty decent. But as I say, it's not available in the US for some reason. I don't know why. It's available in Southeast Asia, Australia, places like that. But for some reason, they have not got it available in the US, or at least not when I first bought it. Because I was going to do a whole video and review about it, but I thought it'd be a bit unkind since most of my audience is in the US. So Parker, hope that answered the question about the monitor. Do I get any ghosting image problems on the new teleprompter? The TMP 100 drives me crazy. Perhaps I need to switch to your model. I don't get any ghosting. I do get ghosting on the Lilliput, the DesView. So the DesView T3, I definitely get some issues with that. Where is it gone? Let me bring this up again. I'm not going to be able to show you. It's not going to show up. But yeah, that is the DesView T3 with the Lilliput A7. With this one, I don't see any noticeable sort of ghosting. Yeah, I was going to go for the TMP. There's a 17-inch TMP teleprompter, but I went with this one just because it happened to be on special offer the time that I bought it. I think it's usually only about $150 anyway, which is considerably cheaper than the equivalent size TMP one. So I was a little bit dubious, to be honest, of trying it, but I thought, well, I'll give it a go because the other models I was looking at were considerably more expensive than that. But yeah, it seems to be all right. I don't notice any ghosting. Like, I've got my little ticker running across the bottom, and yeah, I can see that perfectly clearly within the bounds of my my eyesight. So yeah, it makes a huge difference. That's sorry, this video is coming in over NDI, so it's a little bit juddery. But yeah, I can see that all perfectly clear with no ghosting. So yeah, it might be worth having a look at that. Hey, Bicky, great to see you here as well, and Aubrey, fantastic to see you too. So where I'm up to, I always digress, don't I? I always go off on tangents. So that is the lighting and the teleprompter. The other lights that I've got in here then are these Lito lights. So again, non-light as well, and I can show you where I've got those just at the moment. So that is these little lights that I've got down here. What I love about these is they've got little magnets in the back of them, and in fact, as have the Pavo tubes as well. So these can just basically clip on just like that. And then again, you can control these. These are RGB, obviously, as you can see. And so I can control those from the app. So perhaps what I can do is also show you that. The NanLink app is something you can get for iOS, but since the previous Mac OS, you can also run those apps on your computer as well. So I've basically got the mobile app running on the Mac. So if I just show you this. This is basically what the app looks like. So you can see I've got my different lights. Oh, there's one other light that I've not sort of mentioned just yet as well, which is, so I've got my my key light, but then I've also got the fill light, and then I've got my ironically named hair light. So my hair light, what I did was I did a bit of a Mr. Camera Junkie, and I actually fashioned my own softbox because it actually the panel here has got a very soft light in any case, but really what I wanted was this sort of crate, so to direct the light so it doesn't spill out. There is one I think you can get for it, but I just couldn't find it available anywhere that I could get, so I just fashioned this one myself. So that basically just directs that hair light down at the back of my the back of my head onto my single hair that I have left. So that is one other light that I've got in here, but then basically all of these lights then are controlled. If I switch mics, all of these lights then are controlled by, whoops-a-daisy, not that one. That's my ceiling. All of these lights are controlled by this app. So you can see that I've got the key light, which is, it says Forza 90, that is 90 centimeter softbox. So I've just changed the names of these. The 60 is the 60 centimeter softbox. That's my fill light. Hair light, that's called a MixPad 11C, so that's the type of non-light that is. That's a really good little light, actually. I mean, you could probably, for a sort of mobile setup, you could get away with having just a couple of those because they are square and they've quite a large amount of light that comes out of them. So as a sort of mobile solution, a couple of those would actually be really would work fine, I would think. Although the Pavo tubes, I tend to use those when I'm traveling, the very few occasions when I do travel. But basically then I've got the center left and right. That's those two Pavo tubes that are behind me. That's Pavo tube 6C. The outer ones are those two that I mentioned that I've got on the acoustic panels. And then I've got basically four more of those little Nanlite Lito lights. That is the ones that I've got just down there, the magnetic ones that I just showed you. I'll just show you what those look like. So they're just really small sort of form factor. They've got all the same familiar controls that you have on the Pavo tubes as well, and on the other lights. They're all the same sort of menu system as well. But yeah, there's just a couple of little magnetic places in here where they'll just sort of fit onto anything metal. They also come with little metal plates that you can basically sort of put them in place, stick a bit of double-sided tape on them, and then just stick it wherever you want. So that's what I've done and how I sort of fix them into place. So that is what those are, those four little lights there. And then there's also a Pavo bulb, which is actually the one that I've got in that light fitting that's just behind there. That's actually a Nanlite 30th anniversary lamp that I won in some Nanlite competition, but that actually includes the Pavo bulb. And the bulb is basically a fits into a regular light screw fitting. So if you're going to use them for little accidental lighting or whatever it's called, not accidental lighting, it's the wrong word, that is. You know what I mean. Little small lighting around the place like that. Then you can just screw these into regular light fittings, and then you can just control them exactly the same as you would with anything else. So it's got all the same features. You can use it as a purely white light. It's got RGB, and then that's obviously just cycling through different RGB colors as well, but all controlled again from the NanLink app. But what you can do with this though is with the app, once you've got all your lights in, so I can come in and obviously change these. So if I come in and change, let's say I'll take out the hair light, I can just turn that one off, turn off the fill light, turn off the main light. Now I'm in the witness protection scheme. Practical, that's it. Thank you, Keely. Practical lighting, that was the word I was looking for. So if I switch my key light on, then if I switch the fill light, and then I've got my hair light, which actually I've got with a slight color tinge to it, so it's sort of similar color to the background, but you obviously can go in and sort of change all of that. But what you can do is once you've got this all set up in a way that you want to have it, then you can click into this little one here, and then you've got presets, and then scene preset, and then you can basically just create a new preset. So if I click on add, it will basically remember all of these different things that I've got set up. So at the moment, I've got a couple of different ones. I did have a lot more, but since I've added in all the lights, I haven't been through and set them all up yet. So I've got to do one for my podcast, for example. I have a different lighting going on in the back of my my podcast. But for the moment, though, if I was to click on this one, so if I click on this, you'll see that it will change all of these lights in a moment. So it's just going through basically and updating all of these and changing all of the different lights that I've got in the room. Oh, thank you very much. Just let me take a moment to say thank you very much, Michael. I really appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much. Look at that. I've just covered up the little alert as well. But thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it, and glad you're finding this useful. And obviously, if you've got any questions, then do feel free to ask, as that goes for anyone else as well. Love your videos. Thanks for doing some live stuff. Well, thank you. I do so I do a live every week. It sort of cycles in terms of what I'm actually covering. But thank you again for the super chat. Glad you're liking the content. But as you can see, with the app and setting up those scene presets, it's now gone through and changed the lights in the background. And if I go back to my scene presets again, so where's that? I've got another one here. So if I click to this one, I'll click it back to that, because that's the one that I'm using at the moment. And it's basically just going to go around and sort of change all those lights. Another one that I had before was basically like everything white. So I wanted to just have a lot of light in the room. So I've still got to set that one up. As I say, it's just a case of going through and making the changes that you want to the individual lights, and then just saving that as a preset. So let's have a look. Very sharp picture you got on your... It does look like that, actually, now that you mention that. I'm just noticing. This tech looks great. Very sharp picture you got on your mic. I think it's actually focusing on that rather than me. Now that you mention that, thank you very much, the Math Lab. Great to see you here as well. It seems like it is focusing on that rather than... I can fully understand why it would rather focus on the mic than my face, but there you go. You still can't get your NanLink app working right on Mac OS. It keeps freezing. Oh, that's weird. We'll have to have a little chat about that and see if we can get it working. Mine's been pretty all right, actually. It doesn't. Occasionally, one of the lights may sort of lose the connection if the light has gone off and come back on again. But it's been pretty stable for me, actually. So not quite sure why that might be. But we'll have a little chat about that after Keely, and we'll figure it out. One thing I should say is most of the apps, most of the light fittings will just work straight out of the box with the app. But the Nanlite Forza 60s and some of the larger lights, there is actually one little piece of the puzzle which you need, which is this thing over here. Let me show you. So it's that little box there. In fact, that's called NanLink. So the app is called the NanLink app, and that little box there is called the NanLink box there as well. It's battery powered, but it does also run over USB. So that's just sort of plugged into USB. What that does is that then connects with the lights over 2.4 G signal, gigahertz signal to the NAND lights, and that then I'm basically connected to those, the NAND light 4s or 60s. I'm connected to those through that little box. So that basically performs the bridge between those. Just incidentally, so the lights themselves don't integrate with IFTTT. But I do control them from the Stream Deck, but I do a bit of a hack to work around this, because I use I use I use Keyboard Maestro to actually basically perform mouse clicks in the app itself. So I have a Keyboard Maestro macro that opens up the NAND app and then basically simulates a click on those different setups. So I've got one for sort of lights off, one for those different setups. So I've got basically a Keyboard Maestro shortcut that will open the app and then click into one of these. And what that means is then I can then use Keyboard Maestro with the Stream Deck, so I can effectively press a Stream Deck button and then it will go and select the scene. So there is no sort of direct link in with things like If This Then That, or with, you know, even with Stream Deck, but there is a hack, and I've left a link in the description to the video I made all about how you can set that up with Keyboard Maestro. I wouldn't say it's a necessarily a very easy thing to do. You can, it's not too difficult, but yeah, it's not not for the faint-hearted when it comes to automation. It's one of these things that is a bit easy to set it up so it doesn't work properly. But anyway, hopefully the other video I did should explain how to do that. I'm really pleased that you've found this useful, Michael. Once again, whoopsie-daisy, double-click that. I've used many of your tips in producing your Friday night live game shows. Really pleased to hear that. I don't know where that comment's gone. There we go. Try again. I think I'm beating it. I'm always one step ahead, hiding it before it's shown up. But yeah, glad you're liking it. Hey, Aaron, great to see you. Aaron, am I pronouncing that right? Hi, buddy. Love the backlighting. Thank you very much. So that is it in terms of the NAND lights. That's where I'm up to with those. Just speaking of lighting, a couple of other things. The little on-air sign. You have the obligatory on-air sign that we seem to have as live streamers. I've had that for a while, actually. It was intended to be actually outside to alert people when I'm on air, but now I just think, well, if the door's locked, don't come knocking. That's the easiest way to do that. So yeah, it's there just for decoration in the background. In terms of other things then that I've got going on in the studio, one thing that I do always get asked about, as I've said, all of this stuff is in the description, is the giant clock. I've seen quite a few people with this since I first mentioned it, and when I look in my Amazon, the Amazon affiliates where I can see things that people have bought, this is probably one of the most popular things that people have bought. Just having a giant clock on top of the thing that I can see at all times, I find is much better than having to look over at a little thing in the top of the monitor. So helps keep me on time, hopefully. Although I do seem to be a little bit late for these live streams every week sometime. What was the light controller app? Does it control any app is the question. It's not actually, so it is a specific one for NAND Lite. So it is the NAND app. So let's have a look at that once again. So it is this app. It's just called NAND, and it is for the for specifically, it's a mobile app to control all the NAND Lite fixtures. So yeah, it'd be nice if they did have some sort of Stream Deck integration to be able to control them all that way as well. Although then you would have to have the sort of communication with them somewhere or other. So, but yeah, it would be nice to do that. But maybe that might come a little bit further down the line. But yeah, just to answer your question, and first of all, as well, I should also say thanks for stopping by the live stream. Rebel without a reason. Yeah, it doesn't control any light. It is just for NAND. Is the wall behind you grey? It is. So there was a big thing about this. There's a lot of people got this same colour wall. So it was Doc who sort of made the colour known to everyone. There's a specific hex code for it. There is a code if you're in the US, you can go and buy a specific colour, which the name always escapes me. There is a specific name for it, but there's also a sort of hex code for it. So if you go to a paint manufacturer, they can sort of mix it up. So that's basically what I did. But yeah, the wall essentially is just a grey, specific colour of grey, and that's what's allows the sort of light to fall on it so well. In fact, if I just come to my lighting, what I can probably do is just to change one of these to these ones. I can switch these off, and then you'll sort of see what it looks like without those on. So it's actually quite a dark gray when you don't have anything on it. But then, yeah, any color that I sort of throw up on there, it doesn't sound too good, but any color that I put up on there, if I just go through all the different colors, then basically it reflects just that light really well. So it's really good for absorbing or reflecting just the right color of light. The name of the actual thing escapes me now. What I'll do is I will go Winchester Grey. Thanks, Orbs. I knew somebody would know it. Winchester Grey is the actual. Everyone's saying it now. Was the actual name of the color from whichever paint manufacturer it was. But there is, as I say, there is a hex code that you can get for it as well. And I'll go back and find that, and I'll put it in the description after the fact, because that's what I did. We don't have that same thing over there. And the Math Lab did yours middle grey, 23% grey. Yeah, I mean, I think anything, as a off white more towards the grey is going to look a lot better. So it does. I like it on its own. So often, like when I'm in here, I mentioned before about just having I've got a setup which is just for sort of low white light. But yeah, I like the grey color as well. In a previous life, I was an architect and designed houses, and there was one house that we built, and one of the walls, like external walls, was black. And I remember turning up with this black paint, and everyone thinking I was crazy for having an entire wall that was black. But it was a kind of like a feature wall on the outside of the house. But it turned out quite nice. The whole house was black, white, and grey. Anyway, I digress. Hey, Sammy, great to see you here. I'm so pleased and impressed with how you're getting on these days, Sammy, and seeing your growth on YouTube. It's been really great to see your recent rocketing up in terms of subs and everything like that. Really fantastic. Made me realise as well I should probably be getting onto my shorts game, because you're really nailing it in that respect. But yeah, great to see you here, Sammy. So yeah, Rebel without a reason. That's the thing, is the grey color helps to basically absorb all the colors you don't want and reflect the ones that you do. I should probably sort out my lights again on the back wall. Switch those ones back on. So where are we up to? So that is it in terms of the lighting that I guess I've covered. I've also covered the main camera I'm using is the Sony ZV-E10 with, as I say, the Sigma 30. Then for my top-down camera, I did also change that. I was just using an old iPhone with camo. That was my top-down camera for so long. But if I just change over to it now, this is the Sony ZV-1. Because yeah, I'm starting to do more stuff on Amazon. I'm actually streaming there right now, in fact. But then it means I can just do the product shots, whereas that never seemed to work too well with camo, to be honest. The auto zoom, that's probably a nature of the fact that I was using an old phone with it. I just wanted it permanently set up there. But yeah, this just works well for talking about products and things like that. Also doing demos. I mean, I've got it down there right now, the Rodecaster Pro 2 Masterclass. But that, obviously, I'm talking about the Rodecaster. So I wanted to, when I start updating those, then I'll get better image quality for the top-down shots. Stream Deck Plus, I am really liking that. What I've ended up doing with that is previously on my 32 key Stream Deck, the way that I have that set up is every profile has a home button. So when I press that, it takes me to a sort of home screen, and then I can flick in and out of different profiles that are for different things. Having just talked about my top-down shot, look at that, it's a bit washed out, isn't it? Because this is too bright. But that's the way that I sort of set up my Stream Deck, was to have a home button on every profile that gets me back to this main profile that then I can use to switch between all my other profiles. So as it almost like, a home screen on a phone going in and out of different apps. So that's the way that I kind of thought about the Stream Deck. But what I've done now is I'm basically using the Stream Deck Plus as my shortcut to those different profiles. So I've got my Stream Deck Plus here, but then I've got all my different profiles on here. And then if I press the button on this one, it's going to change. Whoops. No, I don't want to do that. Hang on a minute. I don't want to press that one. That was going to try and change a profile on Ecamm. Okay, let me try something else. So if I press this one, you can see how it's going to go to a different profile over on here. In fact, I think most of these, oh, there we go. So that one is my my YouTube watching profile. But if I click this one, you can see how basically pressing a button on the Stream Deck Plus is changing the profile on the main Stream Deck. So that's actually how I've ended up using the Stream Deck Plus, is that this is kind of like my quick profile switcher to switch over on the Stream Deck. Then I've got some audio levels at the moment for Ecamm. So the way that you can use the dials is they can have one single action, like rotary action in terms of, you know, audio, so volume or something like that. But you can also have a kind of stack. So here, this one is the effects in Ecamm, but if I press it, it changes to input level. And you can see as I'm changing that, pressing that in, it's basically cycling through a number of different ones. So I've got a load of the Ecamm audio effects on this one. Then Ecamm guests is on another one. So again, I've got guest 1, guest 2, guest 3, and so on. I can just sort of cycle through those. And then these others are just for system audio. But when I'm doing, I don't do a huge amount of editing, but I do edit my my podcast in Premiere. So I've got one set up for that can do things in Premiere, you know, sort of skimming back and forth on the timeline. I also use the dials as well in things like Photoshop for, you know, increasing brush size and so on. So that's basically the way that I'm using the Stream Deck Plus. I've still yet to do my full Stream Deck video about the Stream Deck Plus. I'll be doing that, I don't think today, but maybe tomorrow or the next day, and that'll be coming out on the channel, kind of like a proper, you know, review of it. I've had it for nearly a month now, I think 3 weeks, so it'll be a proper sort of how I'm finding it. I do really like it. For me, it would always be a sort of companion device to the regular Stream Deck. I just couldn't do with only having 8 buttons on it. I do really like it though. I like the functionality of the dials. Compared, I noticed somebody mentioned the Loop Deck. So, oh, the Loop Deck plus Stream Deck. So that was the one where I had them mounted together. Yeah, that was working really well for me actually. I like the Loop Deck hardware. I just not a fan of the software, and it's still not really really there for me yet either. So the Stream Deck has replaced that for some things, but I've still got the Loop Deck over on the other side, so I still am actually using that. It's defaulted to my Ecamm profile at the moment over there, but I tend to use that for, as I say, more sort of editing and stuff like that. So that one is still getting used, because as I say, when I'm actually working at my desk as opposed to streaming, then I'm kind of sitting over here. So the main Stream Deck is staying over here, and then I'm basically using more like the Loop Deck and this one. So yeah, I do like the Loop Deck, but the Stream Deck definitely beats it now. And for anyone who was considering getting a Loop Deck before for the dials, well, really, I think the Stream Deck Plus is just sort of whoops, what's gone on there? Gone to another scene there. What's happened? Where's my camera gone? Hang on a minute. So let me just try and go to a different camera for a second. Let's see if we can fix this. What's happened there? Seems like my camera has just dropped out for some reason. Let me see what's going on. I'll just try and bring this thing up here. But yeah, so the Stream Deck and the Loop Deck, I would say that the... oh, that's funny. It's just sort of completely disappeared from the screen. Yeah, I would say that there is no need for the Loop Deck now, because you can just use the Stream Deck. That's really funny. There we go. I don't know what happened there. It's like the camera just dropped out from that particular scene for some reason. Anyway, it's back now. So yeah, for me, the Stream Deck Plus would always be an accompaniment to the 32 key. I wouldn't necessarily sort of recommend it as a primary device unless you really only want those those dials. But certainly, I'd never have recommended the Loop Deck before in any case, just because of the software. But for now, there's definitely no need, I think, with the Stream Deck Plus. So, yeah. The Math Lab, so many cameras. I haven't figured out multiple cams. I have 2. So I tend to, it's funny really, because I only tend to use one primarily on my my channel. I do use obviously the top-down shot sometimes when I'm doing product demos or talking about stuff, but I don't tend to use in my videos, like a side shot like this. I know people use that as part of their videos, but for some reason I don't tend to do that. I probably will try and do that a little bit more. I think it does add a little bit more interest sometimes, but obviously at the moment, just with talking about what I'm doing, it sort of makes sense. So I've essentially got this one, which is my old Canon, and then I've got this one up here, which is an Ava Media 4K webcam, which I'm pretty impressed with, really, considering it is a webcam. It's probably the biggest webcam I've seen. It's really sort of beefy. I think it's even got like a little tiny fan in it as well. But yeah, it's pretty impressive as webcams go. And then obviously the main one that I've got in front of me, and it's not coming back to that scene now. There we go. Everything's going a little bit slow. Oh, it looks like my processor's a little bit overworked at the moment. That is another thing I've talked about. I feel like I've got everything pretty much set up as I want it in the studio now, but one thing would be is, well, actually a couple of things. First of all is actually upgrading the computer itself. So I'm still using my my Mac Mini, which is great, but yeah, probably could use a little bit more processor power at times, like right now. And the other thing that I need to sort out is a NAS, a network attached storage, because yeah, my sort of storage is not as smooth as it could be. And I'm basically offloading a lot of stuff into a couple of places in the cloud. And yeah, I could do with just some a lot more beefier local storage. So that'll probably be the next studio upgrade, will be just a NAS. So let me have a look where we are at. Is that the Stream Deck Plus? Yeah, it is the Stream Deck Plus and the swipe, as you've probably guessed. This is the problem with catching up with comments like a lot after they've come in. You've probably figured this out by now. How's the swipe feature? So that is one of the things. So you mentioned about that you're a fan of the physical buttons. That is one thing that I always preferred about the Stream Deck over the Loop Deck, is that the Loop Deck is just purely, apart from the small little buttons on the top. So the Loop Deck is has got little physical buttons here, but that have got no display on them, or there is the screen here that has got the touch screen. This is all right. I did wonder if I would inadvertently sort of touch things by accident when I didn't mean to before. When I first got it, I did think that might be an issue. It really isn't with the Loop Deck. There is sort of little plastic sort of partitions between each of the buttons in any case. So you've got this sort of little, although it is a single screen, you've got these little raised things, so you don't tend to press the buttons by accident. And then this one has got like a swipe on it as well, so you can swipe on the screen to swipe back and forth between sort of pages of buttons. In terms of the Stream Deck Plus, which I think is the one that you're referring to, that has got physical buttons up here, but then this is the touch screen. But for me, that really makes sense to me, because this is a screen that is displaying what's going on these dials. You can actually press these buttons as well. So if I press that one, for example, it will mute my system audio. But you can also do that by pressing this button. So the only time you're going to press on anything on the screen, you can also physically do that with a button if you prefer the sort of tactile one. So I do like what they've done here. It's yeah, it seems to make sense the way that they've done it, where the touch screen here, and this is, by the way, pages as well, so you can scroll back and forth between pages. So I do like the way that they've implemented this. I do still wish that, although I get why they made these 4 buttons here, these 4 columns of buttons, so that it matches up nicely with these 4 dials here, and you couldn't really put these closer together because you want to have the space to move them. The spacing of this stuff feels great. I just wish that they'd not felt the need to have all of these perfectly in alignment, because then instead of having these 8 buttons here, they could actually have got 10 of the regular size buttons. Because if you look how that is, in fact, even 12. So the width of this from that button to that button is the same as basically 6 buttons on the Stream Deck XL. And they could have had 2 rows of that, or maybe even 3 rows of that. I guess part of the reason, as well as the design, is they didn't want to make the regular Stream Deck sort of obsolete almost, that this would be basically that plus dials. But the bigger buttons that you've got on the Stream Deck Plus, because I don't know if you realize that the buttons are, as you can see, considerably larger. They mention that in their video, that this makes them more glanceable, like it was a design decision, that it makes them more visible. But actually, I've never personally had any issue with seeing the buttons that are on the regular Stream Deck, and I don't know of anyone else who said that they were having issues seeing them either. Maybe that's because I don't tend to have any writing on my Stream Deck icons. So all the icons I design, they're basically just pictograms. So I don't need to see any text on them. So maybe if you were going to have labels on the actual buttons themselves, I can see how maybe a bigger button there might make more sense. But yeah, it would have been amazing to have the functionality of the dials, but also then having, 12 or whatever. Yeah, 12 or 18 buttons on the top there. So, but anyway, I'm not going to complain, although I just have. I'm not going to complain too much because I do like the sort of dial functionality. And as I say, for me, it's definitely sort of a companion device to the XL. I wouldn't give up the XL in terms of having all of those different buttons. If you want to see the ultimate Stream Deck setup, though, Bicky in the chat, you've got to check out his Twitter where he posted some of them because. Yeah, he's got 4 all nicely lined up. Still my favorite Stream Deck setup, that is. I did think about getting a second Stream Deck XL previously anyway. I still might because then that might have a little bit of a mission control feel about it. But I just feel you can never have too many buttons, really, in terms of not having to switch profiles and stuff like that. As you can see for this live stream, I'm basically full up on here. So when I'm making my videos, this is generally full. And then I have other pages of stuff like where I offload stuff to as well. So being able to have these all on a single, all visible at one time, basically, I think would be really helpful. But anyway, we'll get onto that. I'm using the pedal as well. So that's something as well where I've got one of the Stream Deck pedals, and then I've also got a generic one. So I got the generic one before the regular Stream Deck came out. Or the Stream Deck pedal came out. I'm thinking of adding a second Stream Deck pedal though, just because it is a lot more convenient to program these things in Stream Deck itself rather than in the with my generic setup, which basically I then have to program that using Keyboard Maestro. Let me have a little look where we're up to. So that was another digression to answer the question about the swipe feature. Yeah, the swipe feature on the Stream Deck Plus, I think, works really well. And as I say, you've still got those physical buttons as well. Do you stream directly on a separate hard drive, or do you store the stream files locally and then transfer the data to it after your stream? Yeah, so I record directly onto the Mac Mini's drive, but then I use an app called Hazel, which is for basically file and folder management. And what that does is that watches for the place where the files are recorded locally, and then after 24 hours or 48 hours, it basically offloads them somewhere else. And what I do in that time is I go and either rename them or sometimes just delete them if it's like a file, one that I'm not going to use, I'll just delete it, or I'll rename it, and then Hazel then organizes those files based on the name. So the Take One Tech videos go into one place, course videos go into another, and yeah, Hazel's a really great little app like that, and it's one that I often don't think about because it sort of works in the background, whereas Keyboard Maestro, I'm physically triggering shortcuts and things like that to perform actions. I'm constantly aware that it's working away, whereas Hazel is this thing where when you set things up for it to sort of manage your files and folders for you, you almost forget that it's there, and it's just quietly cleaning stuff away in the in the background without you realizing. So yeah, that's what I do. Although the drive, my sort of main sort of storage is actually just a little external, what is it, 3 terabyte what they call SanDisk Extreme, something like that. So it's got 2000 gigabit per second transfer rate anyway. I'm sure I would be all right to just record directly to it in any case. But for the sake of safety, I just record straight to the Max drive and then transfer the file afterwards. So that's what I do there. Hey, Greg. Great to see you here, my friend. Long time no see indeed. Hope everything's going fine for you. It has been. I'm just wondering when the last time I spoke to you was. In fact, it must be quite a while now. But yeah, hope everything's doing great for you. Let's have a look where we are. Touch portal to control your light. Do you know what? I was wondering what that was. I saw that in your picture of your setup where you've got the iPad with the app there for your lights. Glad you mentioned that because I did meant to ask you what that app was that you were using. You use mostly text on SD and have no problems. What are we talking about there? My mind's going blank. On Stream Deck. There we go. Yes, Stream Deck, of course. Use mostly text on Stream Deck, and you have no problem seeing it even on the regular size keys. I know. I think they were just looking for a reason to make these buttons bigger so that they all lined up perfectly with the other ones in the end. I'm surprised as well, because it means, as Keeley mentioned when we were talking about this the other week or something, it means they've got to obviously make these larger buttons. Then they've got a tool for bigger buttons. So it would be nice to have had more of the smaller buttons, but there you go, never mind. So what else have I got going on in this studio since we are talking about it? I think I've covered off most of the sort of changes that I've made. He says, looking around. The Rodecaster's obviously still where it was before. I do like the Rodecaster on the arm. That makes it a lot easier to sort of move around. So I was thinking of adding the one final monitor, actually, which would be, if I come back to this shot, so basically in this gap over here. So when I'm doing screen demos, I tend to use a load of space on this monitor. Before, I basically had all of the space to use, whereas now, because I'm sort of sitting over to one side, this window over here is a little bit far away for doing demos. So like right over that side. So I may still add just a single dedicated monitor over that side for that. So that might be one last addition that I add into it. But the Rodecaster Pro 2 and the monitor here are all off these little, what are they called? I'll find the name of the brand. Really good little, all of this is in the description, as I've mentioned before, but a really good little monitor arm, NB North Bayou. It's a non-branded as such monitor arm, but yeah, just really good to be able to lift up the Rodecaster. Where's this gone? I've just got a few comments left over from before. There we go. It just means that I can sort of move this out, move it around. So when I'm actually doing Rodecaster demos, then I'll often sort of move this up here and put it, change the angle of it so it's better positioned for the top-down shot. But to be able to just sort of move this in and out and around like that and get it out of the way when I'm not using it, I think it's genius that they actually put that fitting on the back for the VESA mount for this monitor arm. And yeah, the monitor arm is only like I think $25 or something like that, but it's really solid. It's like built like a tank. I was really surprised, actually. I bought one of them, and then yeah, when I got it, I was really pleasantly surprised by it. So I got another one for this monitor. So this is just on one of those as well. Although this is a really lightweight monitor. One of the things about the monitor arms is you can adjust the tension quite a lot. So it means that for a light monitor, it's going to stay where it's put there. But then also I bought another one for my wife. She's got like a 36-inch widescreen thing for her Forex trading. And it holds that as well. So yeah, really solid. So that's holding that little monitor as well. It is indeed just gone 6 a.m. I'm in Thailand, but I get up early anyway, so it's all good. This is my quiet time before the kids wake up and before all of the madness starts. Especially now it's getting close to Christmas, they're all the more excited about it all. So, yeah, and I think that pretty much covers all of the updates that I've made to the studio. As I say, the final things are potentially adding in another monitor, but I'm in no rush to do that. Probably will upgrade the old, still 10-year-old Canon that's still going strong, but probably will upgrade that for a ZV-E10 with a Sigma 16, the wide angle, to sort of replace this one, because yeah, if I start actually doing stuff at 4K as opposed to this is still 1080p, but yeah, this one at this point, I'm only getting a 720 signal out of this over USB, so it'll be worth upgrading that one, I think. If anyone's got any final questions or anything like that about anything that I've got in here, then do feel free to ask. What arm is that holding the Rodecaster? I'll bring it up actually, because it is worth mentioning, this one. I mean, I bought this from, I'm going to show it to you on Amazon, but you can get it on in other places as well. But it's a really just sort of a generic brand thing. $29 at the moment it is on Amazon. So where am I? Lost my scene selection. So that is it. It's this North Bayou monitor desk stand. It's got some little cable management in, but honestly, it's built like a tank. It's really solid. It's got a clamp at the bottom like that, so you can actually clamp it to your desk. So that's what I'm doing in my desk. But it does also come with a screw that you can actually screw it all the way through the desk instead. And that's what I've done with my my wife. So it's actually just, it's not sort of clamped onto the side. I wanted to be able to take this one off and move it around as I tweak things, whereas she's much more fixed in where everything is. But yeah, it's got a little adjuster on it as well. It carries up to I forget how many kilograms it will carry, but as I say, she's got a really huge monitor on it. Oh, there you go, it's right there in front of me. 4.4 pounds to 19.8 pounds. So the minimum there is because it is spring loaded. So if you've got something really light, then I guess, you know, it might not go where you put it, might not stay down. Well, I'm using a really lightweight monitor, as I say, this portable monitor that I've got, and I've had no issues with it. It just sort of stays where it's put. So, and as I say, my wife's monitor is huge and it holds that one pretty well as well. And then, yeah, got this little cable management at the back and down on this side as well. There is also a little socket on the front for a USB, although it doesn't actually come with that fitted, which is a bit weird. So there's these little places you can just see right down at the bottom where you can see the little logo. By the way, those peel off as well, so I peeled those off. I prefer it with no logo on it. But there is two little places there, like as if you could also wire in a USB, and there's a little clamp on the inside that you could actually wire in those the little USB things if you wanted to be able to plug stuff in the front of it. Not something I'm interested in, but it is there if you want it. But yeah, for the price, I mean, I was looking at some other ones. There's some really nice you know, top of the range designed monitor arms, which you're not going to see because it's going to be behind your monitor in any case. But some of those were really expensive. And so when I saw this one at, you know, as I say, $30 or whatever it is, I was a bit surprised. You know, I thought I'll give it a go. What's, you know, it can't hurt to try it. And yeah, really pleasantly surprised. And so bought another two of them. Thanks, Keely, for dropping the link in. So yeah, it certainly is sweet for the price as well. Definitely. Cool. So I think that, as I say, pretty much covers anything. If there is any other questions or anything like that before I drop off, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I shall wrap it up. I am going to do like a formal video as well, rather than a rambling thing with all of my digressions. So I will do just a proper studio tour video as well that will be released as a pre-recorded video on the channel at some point before New Year as well, with probably when I've tidied up my cable management as well. But apart from that, hope that has been interesting. Thanks to everyone for coming and hanging out. Great to see some familiar faces, and great to see you again, Greg, as well. As I say, long time. We've got to have a catch up at some point. But thanks everyone for coming and hanging out. For those watching on the replay, what I'll do is I'll leave a link to some of my other studio videos over on the right hand side over here. And I've just got to say a big thank you as well to all of my channel members and supporters. Really appreciate all of your support. It means a huge amount to me. Have a great day, everyone. I'll catch you next time. All the links are in the description for that last comment that's just come in.